Welcome to the Eviva Experience, a podcast about your emotional and mental health without the doom and gloom. Hi there, I'm Sarah Tuckett and I'm a somatic psychotherapist and dance movement therapist based in Brisbane. Let's get on with the show. Today's podcast is about something very dear to my heart. It's about how your nervous system learns by repetition, not by inspiration, an aha moment. You could also call it why one cold plunge, one breathing exercise, or a single therapy session is not going to rewire your nervous system. If you have experienced years of stress or a childhood full of trauma, one single session of polyvagal regulation exercises is not going to rewire your nervous system. I'm sorry. I get a lot of people inquiring about the somatic techniques and these polyvagal exercises, saying they only want to learn these and then go off and do them by themselves. But I'm going to ask you this question. You've got a perfectly good floor in your house, and you've probably got a yoga mat or something like that. How often do you get down on the floor and do ab exercises? Me personally, never. You need someone else to help you through it. And what I know from 10 years as a somatic psychotherapist specializing in anxiety and trauma is that one session with me is not going to rewire your nervous system. Your brain needs repeated experiences of feeling safe in order to build new neural pathways. So what we're talking about here is neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity rewire the nervous system? Well, neurons that fire together wire together. That's the saying. The connections between the neurons are strengthened by repetition, and that pathway becomes myelinated, which means the pathway becomes faster. If you feel like you are stuck in a constantly heightened state, it means that particular pathway has been repeated and strengthened. But luckily, your brain has the ability to rewire your nervous system by creating new pathways and prune away, get rid of redundant connections. This is what we mean by neuroplasticity. Your brain can literally rewire through new experiences. I like to describe it to people like train tracks. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I come from England and there's a lot of train tracks, but imagine you have a series of well-worn train tracks in your brain. It's like your brain goes, oh, okay, yep, this has happened. That's the destination. That's where we're going. What we need to do is teach your nervous system that there are other branches to this network, other destinations on these train tracks. We don't have to end up at Panic City. We can go to Chill Village or Relaxation Town instead. But safety needs to be experienced repeatedly for this to happen. And this is especially important if you've experienced trauma. Trauma isn't just a memory. It's a physical and neurological shift that keeps your body stuck in this heightened survival state. So if you have experienced trauma, we especially need repetition of experiences of safety to strengthen and myelinate those neural pathways. And what I want to explain to you next is that your brain predicts threat instead of responding to it. So this is something you might not actually know. Your brain doesn't react to every single thing that comes your way. It takes in the information through your external and internal stimuli. We call this neuroception. And what it does is it predicts based on your historical experiences, and then afterwards it course corrects if necessary. And sometimes it's kind of funny. So here's an example. The other day, I was walking towards Woolies down my street, a nice suburban leafy street. And as I passed one of my neighbor's driveways, something caught my eye and my brain went, shit, danger, there's a bull. And I literally jumped out of my skin and I turned around and I looked at it. And what it was, I immediately giggled because actually, of course, it wasn't a bull in suburban Kelvin Grove. It was a little motorbike. It was a black motorbike with these big wing mirrors, and that's what my brain, it had taken the shape, the color, and it had looked through my past experience, and it had gone, oh, that could be dangerous. Now, the context here is that I'd had a bit of a heavy morning. I was really tired. So I was already predisposed to being in a bit of a heightened state. And my history is that I had lived in rural Sanford on a property that had lots of cows on it. And when the little bulls were little, they were still living in the field with all the cows. And that's what they looked like. It was that kind of shape. So my brain had gone, oh, it's a cheeky bull. So it's a bit of a silly example, but you can see that my brain had predicted based on my experience, my history, and then it course corrected. And I laughed and I kind of slightly embarrassed walked onto Woolies. So why does your brain predict rather than react? If our brain simply reacted and sifted through all of this external information and the internal sensations, it would be way too inefficient and way too slow to predict danger and keep you safe. And that's because of the sheer volume of information. The information coming through your senses, we call this exteroception, and also the internal information, all of this sounds and felt sense coming from inside your body, most of which you're actually not even aware of. So instead, your brain sifts through these past experiences to create a hypothesis, and it compares it to the information that it's receiving through your senses and the internal felt sense. And these past experiences can be anything. It could be actual events from your past, people, events, encounters, or it could be stuff that you've seen in movies or something you've read in a book. This is a quote here from a book called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain by Lisa Feldman Barrett. Through prediction, your brain constructs the world you experience. It combines bits and pieces of your past, and it estimates how likely each bit applies in your current situation. So if you have had a past of trauma or stress, think about that. When you're in a current situation, your brain is immediately going, oop, this has happened before, oop, we've been in stressful situations before, and it's reacting accordingly because it's perceiving, it's made a prediction that this is dangerous or threatening. So in order to teach your brain the way back to a more regulated nervous system state, you need to repeatedly have experiences of feeling safe. And that's because your nervous system learns through experience, not through insight, not through, okay, I've made that connection in my amazing mammalian brain. No, it's about repetition of experiences of safety. That's how we rewire your nervous system. So each time that you and I do a regulation exercise and you feel a state shift to a more regulated, calmer state, I'm going to ask you to notice what you feel in your body, the sensations, not just the thought of, I feel calmer. And we're going to probably push you to it, get you to become aware of what you feel when you're feeling safer and relaxed and calmer. It's not just a thought. It might be an absence of something. It might be an absence of that contraction in the pit of your stomach. It might be an absence of your heart racing. It might be that you feel heavier, or maybe you're starting to yawn. It's really normal that throughout your session, your nervous system's going to react to thoughts or memories or things you're talking about, and it's going to go back into a heightened state. So we repeat the regulation exercises, repeating it so that your nervous system learns the way back. My goal is to bring flexibility back into your nervous system, the opposite of stuckness. Because we want your nervous system to be able to react to danger, to threat, but we also want it to calm down again when the danger has passed. So for example, say I'm late for the bus and you would see me going, shit, running down the street, my heart racing, trying to cross Kelvin Grove Road, and there's like 6 lanes of traffic, and I'm like, am I going to make the bus? And then I make the bus and I'm like, yes, legend. So I've made the bus and then I start calming down again. We want my nervous system to react and then calm down again. And what I want to also plead here is that be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Like, you wouldn't expect to be awesome at learning a new musical instrument in your first lesson. So please don't expect yourself to be great at this just after one go at it. I get people often saying to me, oh yeah, I'm not very good at this. I'm like, well look, I was completely shit at the cello for 2 years, but I got a little bit better after that. I'm not saying it's going to take you 2 years. I'm just really dreadful at the cello. So state shifts become pathways through repetition. Now that's a quote from the amazing Deb Danner, who's one of the leading polyvagal theory people in America. She's got a great book out called Anchored, How to Befriend Your Nervous System Using Polyvagal Theory. And you can find it on, Schlamazon and all the good places. And another thing I want to point out is that you need co-regulation. Your nervous system needs a guide. I had this amazing client. She was incredibly intelligent and very self-aware. And she said to me, why don't these breathing exercises work for me when I'm on my own? And the answer was that this person had experienced an entire lifetime of childhood neglect, zero emotional containment or nervous system regulation from her parents. And her nervous system was just really stuck in a heightened state, and she was only just learning the way back down to safety. She needed a guide to help her co-regulate. We all need that at times. Think about how many times have you said to yourself, I just need my mom. And I'm 55 and I still think that sometimes when I'm really upset. Or maybe you just think, I just need my girlfriends when you've been dumped. It's completely normal. Our culture praises individualism and hyper-independence. But we are pack animals. We need each other, especially when we are extremely distressed. We are designed to be comforted by the mere presence of a safe person. What happens is your nervous system is subtly picking up the cues of safety and regulation that this safe person provides. Their posture, their facial expression. They may slow down their breathing. They may lean forward towards you. If they're someone you know really well, they might reach out and touch you, hug you, offer a hug. Even the prosody of their voice, the volume, the tone, the speed, the pitch. All of this will send signals of calm and safety to your nervous system. And this is all happening below your level of awareness. So if you have experienced trauma, you definitely need a safe place to lead you through this. You cannot process trauma on your own. So as I've said, insight alone doesn't rewire trauma. You may have had these kind of aha moments or these moments of insight doing talk therapy or reading a book, but you still feel heightened, or if you feel like something is stuck in your body. And that's because your body needs to physically experience safety. We call this the felt sense. This is embodied learning, not a cognitive one. Talking about safety is not the same as feeling it. So how often should you practice nervous system regulation techniques? I don't care where you find them, whether you find them on YouTube or TikTok or wherever. But if you want to rewire your nervous system, you're going to need to practice this daily. In fact, multiple times a day. How about every time you touch water? That's an easy one. When you drink water, when you turn on the tap, when you wash your hands. Now, there's a reason I suggest doing things multiple times a day. We need to strengthen those pathways. It's repetition that counts. So here's some, for those of you that are maths nerds, I'm a maths nerd. If you just do the exercises when you come and see me, and say you see me once a fortnight, that is 0.5% of the time you are actually awake. So the average, think about it, the average person is awake for 16 hours a day. So over a fortnight, you're awake for about 224 hours. So 1 hour out of 224 is less than 0.5%. So if you only practice the regulation exercises in that 1 hour that you see me, it's not enough. To make headway, to strengthen those pathways, you need to do it every day. It doesn't have to be perfect. Consistency is more important than getting it right. Another quote from Deb Danner: state shifts become pathways through repetition. You can retrain an overactive stress response, but please be patient and be realistic. It's not possible to reverse the experiences of 20 years of an abusive relationship or a childhood full of neglect in just 1 week. It's going to take time and repetition and self-compassion, but you will get there. So here is my favorite. So simple, you can do it anywhere. You can do a noisy version where it's really obvious what you're doing, or you could do it really silently. So you could be doing it talking to someone, they won't even know that you're doing it. It's called the Physiological Sigh, and all you're going to do, sniff in through your nose, hold, sniff in again, feel your chest and your rib cage expand, and then slowly exhale through your mouth. Feel everything sinking, narrowing. So let's do it together. Sniff in, hold, sniff in again, feel everything expand, open your mouth, and then just sigh out. Let that air fall out of your mouth. Now, if you wanted to do a really big version, you could sniff in like this. But if you wanted to do it really subtly in front of other people, maybe on the bus, maybe at a meeting, just do it really gently. Now, why this works. This is a natural thing that we do when we're asleep if the amount of carbon dioxide in our blood system is a bit out of whack. So what this does is when we overbreathe during periods of stress, we can actually create this imbalance of carbon dioxide. So this long exhale through your mouth helps efficiently and gently release the carbon dioxide, but it also activates the parasympathetic nervous system response, taking you into a state of calm. And it also opens up our lungs. You'll have felt when you did that second sniff in, you will have felt how much your rib cage expanded. And what that second inhale does is it opens up the little air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli. And that improves the intake of oxygen and the removal of carbon dioxide. So it's improving your breathing and it's taking you into that lovely, calmer nervous system response. Doesn't matter when you do it. I think of things like this, as I said, when I touch water, or, like I've got on both Netflix and Prime, I've now got ads coming up, which is really annoying. And I was like, no, I'm not going to watch them. So instead, I do something like that. I do a grounding exercise, or I do this physiological sigh. It doesn't matter when you do it. As they say at Nike, just do it. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I have a question for you. How do you want to feel today? Powerful, playful, or present? Download my free guide, Feel Your Va-Va-Voom in 60 seconds, and find out how. Bye.